Breakfast with KXVU.
Trickstar Radio.
Right then, just gone at 14 minutes past 8 here. Trickstar Radio. That one there, Sonda from Bushbaby. I think we kind of worked out it was towards the end of last year.
I think third quarter.
Third quarter. So yeah, really, really cool sound on that one, and quite almost. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. It's almost like prophetic of what was to come in a lot of sort of house and the sort of house sound.
That's a beautiful word, yeah.
So it was a tune that kind of I heard that one, and then I actually heard that before I heard Losing It.
Oh,
and obviously they're two tunes that have been like compared to be quite similar in their sound. So I heard that one, then heard Losing It, and I was like, what's Fisher doing? Why is he doing the same thing as our Bush? But yeah, really cool sound. Like, what was the kind of setup with putting that one together?
Oh god, it's been a while now. That one, yeah, I was just trying to make sort of a big, as you said, a big room kind of vibe. Sort of minimal stripped back production, but with this like big space in there, which people can kind of grasp onto. So it's kind of dancey, but it's also kind of moody at the same time.
And it's definitely got that big room feel, man. It's definitely when you can kind of imagine seeing like arms out at like a massive like warehouse stage or something, and just the room shaking. And it's just got so much energy behind it. Now, obviously we're looking at the kind of development of your sound today. This is something that I think you're very proud of. I get the impression you're very proud of how like the sound's developed. And I think you're one of the people in kind of, I want to say bass music as an overall bracket, but you're someone that's more sort of led the way into a more sort of, I want to say mature kind of stripped back look at dance music, rather than kind of steering towards the EDM sort of side of things, which seems to be how stuff split. Like how would you describe your sort of development of sound over the last let's say 18 months?
Yeah, so that's actually a very big compliment, thank you. And yeah, you're definitely right. It's definitely split two ways. So it's one's going towards the more sort of stripped back, moody, vibey kind of way, and then the other way is going to EDM. It's the same thing that happened with dubstep in a similar way, you know. But so yeah, my progression is I've always been inspired by those big room feelings and like the lights, and you know, being in the room with everyone, and it's like everyone's sweating and hot, and you can just feel the bass like rumbling you. That's what inspires me. So I have this kind of romanticized image in my head of what that would be like, and then I kind of make tunes to kind of fit that.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I picture myself.
You're almost like painting the pit. You're like painting the picture of what you see. It's almost like synesthetic in a way.
Yeah, I do actually like. That's people have said that to me. I've never really like it. I think that's what I have, because I tend to see sounds as images in a way. So I see the image as I'm making the tune, and I'm like, I know that if I get a strong imagery from a tune, I know that I'm on the right path.
100%. So it's really cool to see, and the way you kind of describe it as well. It's almost, I've never actually heard someone describe it like describe that feeling as the kind of inspiration. Yeah. That kind of euphoric, almost like togetherness of being in that room. Everyone's experiencing the same thing at this same time, and it's almost like I'm trying to think of the almost like the morphic kind of thing of everyone feeling the same thing at the same time.
Definitely.
That's where the energy comes from. So where would you sort of define your sound as now? Like, what would you define the end of 2019 Bushbaby sound as?
I'd say it's probably halfway between bass music or bass line, if you want to call it that, and techno and house. So it's sort of like in between.
And it's a very unique kind of pocket as well, because it's an area that you almost, with your sound, obviously you've got like a background in a more sort of bass kind of orientated field. So you now have almost like this. You're in this kind of like almost golden pocket where everyone wants to play a Bushbaby tune, because it's like this is an area where you're kind of guaranteed it's going to go off. They always sound big regardless of what they're up against. The tunes always sound big, and it must be quite a nice feeling to be in that position.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very nice to be in that position.
Over like the last 18 months, what's sort of inspired this kind of change then?
I just saw the scene going towards a very sort of it's going to get so angry and so aggy that all it's
angry music.
It's just going to turn, basically it's going to turn into bass house in the US. That's what it is, you know. So I feel like there's only so far we can go with that. I mean, that stuff's I like that stuff as well, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not hating, I'm not throwing any shade on that.
Yeah, of course.
But I just wanted to see maybe we could go this way, and you know, maybe if we like put some more vocals in and like stripped it back a bit and like made it a bit more vibey, or just, you know, just a bit more like atmospheric and a bit more moody. Let's try that and see where that goes.
And I think as well, it's adding a bit of longevity to the sound as well, because I think when you said about dubstep earlier, it's a similar thing that happened with dubstep. I think dubstep got to a point where it was basically about like the war of sound.
Exactly.
It was about who can make the angriest, loudest, most dystopian kind of sound, and then put it together over a like halftime 140 drum beat. And I think with bass, a lot of that did happen to an extent. I feel it is now at a point where people are going more towards a kind of EDM-ish sort of sound. Even there's some people that are taking a more sort of Kate Renardery approach to it a lot of the time, which I don't know what Kate Renarder genre is. I call it
hip-hop, or I don't know.
I think it's just called Sounds Like Kate Renarder. It's that sort of sound.
Just Kate Renarder.
So when you kind of hear the different like areas and the kind of different like splits that have kind of come off it, and then obviously we've got this now people moving into a garage sort of sound as well. Obviously you've put Woman's Touch out this year. Would you define Woman's Touch as a garage tune?
Yeah, probably.
I think it's in that.
I didn't have that in my head when I made it, but yeah, I think it would be defined as a garage tune.
Do you remember you spoke about imagery earlier? Do you remember the sort of image that you had when you were putting Woman's Touch together?
Yeah, so that Reese bass is like brown. It's like muddy.
Okay.
And like it's got like red veins flowing through
this is mad.
it.
Like, is this what you physically like see?
Yeah, so it's not really. It's what I see. Yeah. I don't see it physically, but it's in my head. It's what comes up when I see. So for example, Sonder, like that's another one that's kind of like it's a bit more red than Woman's Touch, and the Reese is in the air, and the drums are like carrying it along like a chariot. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. This is
so it's
awesome.
Like that. It's like carrying it. So
it's just interesting to hear how people kind of like almost like the sound develops between their ears and their brain, if you know what I mean. It's like the thing of what it actually becomes.
So I know I've got a tune going right when I can feel it turning over on itself like a chariot or like a wheel. Like I know that's when it's. Well, I guess it's rolling. When it rolls.
So we've got another tune on the way. This one is your brand new single, which is out this Friday. Like, where would you put this kind of like on the scale of what you've been doing recently?
More towards the sort of tech housey kind of, more towards that side rather than the bassline side, you know.
So some more kind of more, should we say more mature?
Yeah, a little bit more mature, but you know, everyone can party to it.
Yeah, that's that sort of thing. So it's called Cutty. What's the kind of layout of this one?
I don't really know. It's just meant to bang. It's meant to make people dance.
I think the vocal works as well. The vocal really works. I think it's something that it always adds an extra layer. I think vocals to this sort of high energy 4x4 music. Like the right vocal can make something just absolutely bang. And I think this one's done very well indeed. So when's this one out? This one's out.
This one's out on Friday.
Okay, cool. That's good stuff. We're going to jump into this one next. This one is Cutty. Bushbaby is in the building. I'm having a whale of a time defining sound. How would you define this one? I want to get as many of these as possible. How would you define this one? So
there's a synth in there that's it's really hard to explain, but it's kind of like 3 lines that
on the shirt.
On the what?
3 lines on the shirt?
They're just 3 like thick tubes, kind of, but they're at a sort of angle to each other, and they're all kind of. It's hard to describe, but and they're very brightly coloured.
Nice, love it. This is the first time I've heard it. Cool. We're going to jump into this one next. This one is Cutty by Bushbaby at Trickstar BTN at Cub KXVU. Just gone 22 minutes past 8 here. We are live on the Breakfast Show.
Waking up Brighton.
Breakfast with Cobb Kovu.